never fade. Crank it louder, feel the heat. Barbecue anthems forever sweet. Get in the smoke, yeah, the fire won't die. With central lights cheering, the flames reach the sky. Raise your glasses, let the whole world know we're rocking forever on the barbecue show. Get in the smoke, let the fire take hold. Raise your lighters, stories told. Barbecue thunder, the spotlights glow. Rocking the pit on the barbecue show.
Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike your match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. Also, this show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire fun and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening on the show this evening. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, it is the second Tuesday of a month and a new quarter. And that can only mean a visit from our pal over at the Barbecue Lab, David Gafford, moments away. If you're not familiar with David's website, he is, in my estimation, the leader, and you might have a different opinion, on all of the reviews, grills, and other cookers and accessories and anything that has to do with the live fire industry that is for sale. He's doing tests on. He's listening to the feedback. He's going out and purchasing, or companies are getting in contact with him and saying, hey, will you do some kind of a review? And what I like the most about David, he's not necessarily just kissing ass all the way around. He's giving you his true, honest opinion. But most importantly, he's giving you the real-time data and feedback. He's not necessarily saying, buy this, don't buy that. He's giving you all of the information so you can make informed decisions when it comes to purchasing cookers of all types, accessories of all types, things of this nature. So that's why we have him on once a quarter, because nobody's doing it better than he is at the present time, and always fun to listen to and learn from. So David Gafford coming up shortly, and then after David, because it is the second Tuesday of a month, 35 past the first hour, we have to visit with our pal Robert Moss of robertfmoss.com, the smartest man that continues to appear on the show by choice on a monthly basis. And we have a handful of topics that we'll be talking to Robert about, so looking forward to that. That will bring a close to the first hour, and then we will move to the second hour, where it will be one guest through both interview segments. It's been roughly 3 years since he was on the last time, but he's back and better than ever. Finally chased down and have Robert Dahle. You might know him as the CEO of Weber Blackstone, or Blackstone Weber, or the CEO of Blackstone and the CEO of Weber. Whatever feels right to you, he is that. And we have plenty to talk about. A lot of things have changed. You would recall a year and a half ago, or a year and 5 months ago, or 6 months ago, I was reaching out to Roger saying, hey, just heard about the merger or the get-together or the mashup or whatever the legal term is these days. Love to have you on the show sooner than later so we can talk about all the fun stuff and what the outlook is for both. At that time, it was like, give me until like February, March. We got to get through regulatory. We got to get some approvals, but should be ready to rock and roll by then. Roger, of course, big fan of the show. And then we got into late spring, and then early summer, and then late summer, and then fall, and all of a sudden the year was over. We'll talk about all of it. It's going to be great. So, huge name in the second hour, as Kinger's pointing out in the chat. By the way, we say hello to Kinger 2 weeks in a row. We can only hope things hold tight here. I'll get to that here in a second. So, that's your show this evening. We have David Gafford and Robert Moss in the first hour, and a Roger Dahle in the second hour. So tell all your friends and neighbors right now this show is on. If they would rather follow me socially instead, you can do that via the Instagrams, the Twitter, the TikToks, the Snappy Snaps, and the LinkedIns, all with the handle at BBQ Central Show. And of course, we say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show. Alternatively, you can watch on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. We have a new YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody in a 100% assurity statement fashion. You watched more than 10 minutes of the World Cup by choice, and currently 71% of you are saying no. I'm going to be honest, where I typically, you guys know this, where I typically fall into the minority of what all of you typically think, I am right with you with the majority. No. Didn't see even 1 second until the U.S. was playing whoever they lost to, and I didn't even turn it on. My wife turned it on, and 38 seconds later, United States scores what ends up being the only goal they scored that evening. And then 61 seconds later, if that's right, the other team scored a goal. My mind was blown. I'd never seen such prolific scoring in a soccer match in all of my 52 years of life. Not even my days of playing Saratoga Springs, New York, City League soccer for the Cosmos did we see such scoring prevalence. And then there started a lot of running and not scoring. I figured, hey, we might as well keep this on. If it's only going to take a minute for the next goal to get scored, maybe I am going to be a soccer fan. But indeed, there wasn't one in the next couple minutes, and my interest waned sizably. And the next thing you know, we're watching some murder show. as we usually do. So 71% of you are in alignment with me. But results of the poll question from last week, do you think the earth is round? 100% of you said no. And we start here this evening. And the good news is this, and while I won't say a majority of you knew who Bob Trudnak was, there was a good number of you who wrote in and said you knew him from back in the Barbecue Guru days. And of course, from this show, we did a lot of business together for the better part of 10 plus years. So happy to see Bob's success. And in regards to the show from last week, a tale of two shows, right? Hour one was one of the best in recent memory. Malcolm Reed drops an iconic and off-the-cuff line about tomato peels going in and coming out looking the same. And again, I'll take his word on that. I'm not a study your doo-doo kind of guy. At least I'm not yet. And not to be outdone, Steve Ray said poo-tang multiple times on the show in his attempt to actually say poutine. Easy to make that mistake, right? And I'm not sure how one actually makes that mistake, but he did. And really, I think maybe somebody was trying to be cute and got a little slide in of poontang, hoping he could get away with it. But look, if you think you're going to slide a poontang reference in on this show and get away with it, sorely mistaken. You're not going to float a poontang reference by me, and I'm not going to notice it. I'm going to notice the poontang each and every time. So tremendous first hour all the way around, and then the second hour right in the shitter. Sam, the cooking guy, tries to do a segment via car because he was stuck on traffic heading back from his son's house. And then, when it couldn't get worse, and it did, Ali Khan, nowhere to be found for his hit. After corresponding with him over the next few days, the internet took a shit where he lives. Couple that with finding out after the internet came back up that his home router was also fried. Second hour of the show, the way I planned it, just wasn't in the cards. But the good news is this: I have them both lined up for next week. Same time slots. 10:14 or 14 past the second hour, saying the cooking guy, 35 past or the bullpen segment, Ali Khan. And we'll see how that happens. Before we get to David Gafford, what do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for the traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts, but what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do that true two-zone cooking, and we love it. We know it's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. We know a lot of people grade high on it when they're looking to do reviews. Can this grill do true two-zone cooking? But when you look at all the other round ceramic cookers, getting a two-zone fire, not necessarily that realistic because, of course, it is round. But then you have Primo, the game-changing oval design shape, giving you that ability to execute the two-zone setup that you desire. And also all the other ceramic grill benefits as well. And when we talk about ceramics, keep this in mind. You go to the manufacturing plant, you go to their kiln, they have the Primo in the kiln, they have all of the other ceramic cookers in the kiln. Then they close the kiln doors and fire said kiln. Then after the firing process, you open it up and everything else has cracked or busted or exploded or melted except the Primo. What is that telling you? Do some due diligence. Remember, 2 cookers in one as well. Only sold through dealers. Go to primogrill.com, find one near you, and follow them on all of the socials. You'll be happy that you did. It is the summer of Primo for me once again. Happy to do it. Just had some chicken the other night. Oh, so good. And minimal charcoal use. I'm going to be relighting that thing 2 or 3 different grill sessions. We're back with David Gafford right after this.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we welcome you back. Double aught. Okay, well, that didn't work. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. Come on. Come on. How? Add to the queue. Yeah. Okay. Oh. What the fuck? Anyway. Double aught barbecue. I wanted to show you. He said it. This isn't me pretending, but I can't do that ever. Evidently. In a quote, I'm going to notice the poontang each and every time. Yes, every time. In all of the ways. Double aught. My first guest tonight creates some of, if not the most comprehensive barbecue and grilling reviews that can be found across the interwebs, or printed material for that matter, if you're into that. So let's go ahead and welcome back our quarterly guest from the Barbecue Lab, David Gafford. Hey, Dave.
Hey, great to see you.
Great to see you. We have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. You watched more than 10 minutes of the World Cup by choice.
Yes, I 100% did.
Right? 40% of the YouTube voting public agreeing with David. They did watch more than 10 minutes by choice, and 60% of us, me included, did not watch 10 minutes. I barely watched 3 minutes, but that was 3 more than I had watched any other World Cup thing. And I understand it's popular, it's the world's game, but you know, I live in America. Did you go to the ThermoWorks event a few weeks ago?
I did, yes.
Yes?
I went to the ThermoWorks event, yep.
Do you go to all the ThermoWorks event? I went to one, was that 2 or 3 years ago when they did the RFX meet?
Yep. Yeah, that's where we ran into each other.
That's right. That's where our romance kindled, right?
Oh, romance.
Yes, online romance, nothing better than that. So do they do it every year?
No. Nope, it's only every couple, I think.
All right, so what was the big... So I say RFX meet, and it was supposed to be like hush hush, by the way, leak it as quickly as you can to all of your outlets on this wireless thermometer thing, as we kind of can't, or at least that was the feel that I got from it. What's it this time?
I mean, we were there. We talked about the gravitas quite a bit. We looked at that scale, which was a load of fun. I mean, because the question is, what does a thermometer company have to bring to the world of weights and measurements? That's a really great question to debate, right?
Well, half of it I understand fully, because their thermometers are giving you measurements of temperature, not necessarily measurements of the aforementioned weights. So I guess that is the question. What is ThermoWorks bringing to the kitchen scale that I can't get at Sharper Image or Target or anywhere in between?
Yeah, I mean, great question, because I don't know if you like to make pizza, Greg. I mean,
Yes.
you like to make pizza dough.
Yep.
So whenever you go and make pizza dough, if you're anything like me, you measure it out, and I measure it out not by cup or teaspoon or tablespoon. I'm measuring it out by grams. And whenever I do that, I have scales. I have an uni scale, and there's 2 scales on that individual scale. There's one for everything an ounce or greater, and then there's a second scale on that same unit for everything 1/10 of an ounce or 1/10 of a gram or less. So the idea is, how do you actually, how do you actually make a scale better that has to have 2 scales to be able to make the same thing happen? And that's what ThermoWorks has set out to do. So they created this gravitas where you can weigh up to 11 pounds and all the way down to 1/10 of a gram in the same scale. One surface, and that's it.
How big of a seller are they thinking this is going to be?
I don't know. I mean, we didn't really talk much about that. I think it was really just, here's the product, play with it, test it, see what you think, and then, go out and take it and test it and do what you can with it. I know that we brought one home with us, and that's what we did, is we started weighing everything we could. And we have a pizza oven comparison coming up this next weekend. And in making all the dough for that, we use the Gravitas. It was just a lot easier than using some of our other scales, and it takes up less space. So that was the bonus for me. And it really comes down to, can you justify the price for what it is able to do in one scale versus two? Because you release something brand new like this, it's going to come with a premium price.
I'll get to the price here in a second, or I'll at least ask about it. So as you're perusing the who's who in this list of invitees, and obviously I wasn't there, so big downturn of excitement. But outside of that, is it a lot of bakers and non-barbecue folk, or is there a decent mix of both?
There was a good mix of both. I mean, but I was incredibly saddened that you weren't sitting at the table across from me.
Right.
Because I looked for you and you weren't there. So I didn't know what to do. So I just went, okay, this is awkward. I guess we'll have the awkwardness on the podcast to make sure that everyone can see the interaction.
You didn't tell the person across from you, whoever was sitting out there in the palatial estate, I'm just going to call you Greg tonight.
I did. I said, my friend Greg sat there last year, so I can't talk to you this year because you're not Greg. So this is going to be awkward, but I hope that you're okay with it.
I'm glad you did that.
Yep. I mean, represent.
All right. Price tag?
I think they're asking, it's about $119 for it. So It's pretty steep.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, don't quote me. I think that's what it is. I haven't looked.
Yeah, so I would say any kitchen scale plus $30, $40 is probably going to yank people, if not in the cockle region of their hearts, perhaps even deeply to the subcockle region. In barbecue, I think we all subscribe to, a lot of us subscribe to the fact of buy the best and only cry once. I say that religiously with any thermometer that ThermoWorks makes, especially when you're into the high-end instant reads. You tell somebody that's outside of the business, spent $85 or $105 on an instant read meat thermometer. Once they regain consciousness, you say, well, really, this is why you sell the feature benefit. Maybe they go out and buy one, or maybe they stay with a piece of shit $20 one, whatever. And its lifespan and its accuracy and all the things we talked about before. I assume ThermoWorks is really leaning on that history and that foundation to make sure that the features and benefits are seen on the scale.
I mean, I think so. I mean, for me, the benefit is one scale that can measure everything from the minute tenth of a gram all the way up to 11 pounds. For us, like the real thing for us is making the pizza dough. That's a real big real-time application. But we got certified at the barbecue lab to be able to be a rub mixing establishment. And so I went out and got the certifications. I got our new building certified. So we mix rubs and we make our own rubs at the barbecue lab. And in doing that, I have to weigh it. It's all done by weight. And before, I had a couple different scales around. Now I literally just use the Gravitas. So everything I need to do, I can do on that. And it's been great. But ultimately, it comes back to, does every home user need a scale like that? If you're really into baking, I know that this is a scale that bakers have been asking for years.
Yeah.
Barbecue guys, I mean, maybe. I think a lot of it comes down to, what are you going to do with the scale? I mean, do you make your own rubs? Do you mix your own batches of seasoning? If you do, something like this might come in handy. But I mean, really, the people who are going to be ecstatic over this are the ones who every single recipe have to weigh what they're using. And that's not necessarily barbecue.
By the way, outside of this industry, if you're somebody that is health conscious, that likes to weigh their food out, that is trying to hit macronutrients, these kind of goals, this is like right up my alley. I'm living that life, and I have been for a couple of years now. So outside of all the cool cooking stuff that I can do with it from a weights and measure standpoint, just the everyday measuring it out of lunch today or what I'm eating for dinner tonight is, to me, well worth $120 or $130 because I know I'm getting quality on top of that. Ready for sale? Like, can I go to the website and pick it up?
I believe you can go pick it up now. I think it's either pre-sale or full sale. I know the other audience that's really stoked about this is the coffee crew. those who love their coffees and they want to weigh their coffees. There was even someone who was talking about the fact that you can remove the display from the actual scale itself and take it around with you. How they would pour an espresso, but they would be able to walk around with it while they're pouring it, and they'll know when it hits, the certain point. I love coffee, but I don't go to that length. But they were super excited about it. So that's another crowd that I know has been asking for it, and hey, they've delivered.
All right, Double Odd Barbecue confirming that it's a pre-sale and they're going to ship in August. So we thank you for that. Let's get into some reviews that you've done here over the last month or so. One of them is on a cooker. It's been around forever, and I want to say that most of us barbecue and grilling nerds have heard of it, but I don't want to just paint in broad strokes. It's called the Hasty Bake. You have a couple, so the most recent review was on the Hasty Bake 357, a stainless steel beauty. What do we like about it?
I've just got to say, when you get a grill that has that much stainless steel in it and then weighs as much as it does, it's going to be around for a good decade or two. And that's one of the things I love about it is the longevity. So the whole buy once, cry once is something that we talk about all the time. This is the very definition of that. But for me, looking at the different Hasty Bakes that I've gone and reviewed and cooked on, the thing that really makes this one different is that there's a gasket everywhere. You've got gaskets around the firebox. You've got gaskets around the lid. You've got gaskets. It's just full of gaskets. That's something you don't see in something that's a grill first usually. You see that in something that's a smoker first. Well, this grill is a grill and a smoker, but you could tell they really put the emphasis on smoker in this one, because if you're looking this for just burgers, brats, and dogs, this is overkill. But if you're thinking briskets, 2-zone cooking, indirect cooking of a couple racks of ribs, or a ton more than that, that's really what this machine is for. And the way that door opens is something else. It looks like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari when you open the lid on this thing. If you haven't seen it, head online, check out, Hasty Bake 357 Pro review. You'll find our review on it. But opening that door was one of my favorite parts of reviewing in the last couple of months. When I opened it, just a huge smile came to my face. Just so much fun.
What are we looking at from a real estate standpoint about how many butts or burgers, racks, or ribs?
This grill comes with a deflector plate inside, so you can be able to cook across the whole entire surface indirect. I think you could get 6 butts on it, and that's a lot of butts.
Wow.
So I think 6 butts would not be a problem. Racks of ribs, if you lay them down, you could probably get 6 or 8 at least. But the idea is if you stand them up, you could probably get, 14 to 20. So there's a lot of real estate on there. It's not as big as their largest grill, which I don't even remember the name of it, but it's much larger than this one. But this one is remarkable from the fact that it's so much stainless steel, gaskets galore, and then of course the crank up charcoal grate. The idea that you can crank your charcoal up and down away and closer to the grate, that's really a game changer when you start thinking about, indirect versus secondary sear. There's so many options.
How easy is it to control temperature on this thing? Certainly you mentioned the crank up and down on the charcoal grate, but as far as locking in a temperature, are there vent intakes? Is there an exhaust on the top of the hood? Things like this.
Yeah, the whole cooker is double walled. So that's one of the other things that sets it apart, that you're talking about a double walled firebox, double walled cooking chamber. But when you start looking at the intakes are in the bottom of the firebox door, and there's an intake on the opposite side right at grate level. So it's a slide slit system, and air intake is pretty much how you control the heat. But you guys all know this, with charcoal grills, the way you really control the heat is how much charcoal you've lit. So if you're going to light a ton of charcoal, you're going to have a much hotter fire, no matter how you set your air intake and exhaust. If you light less charcoal, you're going to have a more manageable fire and let it grow across for a lower, slower burn. I found that thing likes to run at about the 260 to 275 range when you're doing indirect or low and slow. And that's probably just because of the way that I lit my charcoal. But I found that it really liked that. Like you guys know, you've seen the Outlaw smokers. Outlaws love to run at about 300. Yep. I found that this liked to run right around 275.
What are we looking at price tag wise?
It's somewhere between ouch and boing. I think $39.99 is where you're looking at for this.
Wow, that's premium price for stainless steel charcoal grill.
That it is.
Yep.
But I will say this. I mean, looking at it, I think it was 18 gauge and 20 gauge on the shell. So you had 18 gauge stainless, I think, on the inside, 20 gauge stainless on the outside, double walled all around. You're talking about something that's going to last, decades. And their warranty, they say, like I said, I haven't actually had to use their warranty because I haven't had it long enough. But the idea is the warranty is meant to back it up. And I think it's something that you buy and you just kind of laugh at everybody who's going out and buying the grills that last 1 or 2 years from a big box store because it's going to be around for a long time. That's what I like.
Let's go to the next review that I was really curious about. Yoder's YS640. I know a lot of people that have this cooker. It has long been chatted about online and amongst us that might have one here in the Cleveland area about it being one of, if not the elite pellet cooker on the market today. How did you find?
I know that me personally, I've looked at Yoder as a brand that was an aspirational brand. As someone who was into cooking outdoors, I loved having people over and having the community aspect of being around the grill. I always wanted a Yoder because I looked at it and I went, man, it's so much heavier. It's going to do better in the winter. It's going to, I had this aspirational idea that I want to go there someday. And it finally happened. I was able to actually get my hands on one and run it through its paces. And the first thing I did was I threw 6 butts on it for a church event that we were doing for the youth group. And I did pulled pork carnita style. And I thought, first thing first, I'm probably not going to get this right. I'm going to have some problems with it. I mean, it purred like a kitten. I set that thing to 200 overnight, threw 6 butts on it. I didn't have a grease fire. All the grease exited the way it should. Woke up the next day. All the butts were around 160 degrees, which is what I was expecting. Wrapped them, finished them off, and it was uneventful. And in a review, I got to be honest, most of the stuff is not uneventful. First time you're cooking on a grill, I've never cooked on this before. I'm going to start a fire, or it's going to go off during the night, or the pellets are going to, who knows? There's always going to be something that happens. But in cooking with this, I was actually pleasantly surprised. And I would say that the one thing that frustrated me was that the exhaust pipe leaked liquid smoke. And it leaked it onto the side shelf. It's something I've read about in the forums. I've seen it from I've seen it from others. But that's something that I went, there's got to be a way to fix this. I know a couple of people chimed in the comments and said, well, here's exactly what you do. You go out and you do this. And I think that's something that I'd love to see them fix at the factory. But if that's my biggest gripe about the grill, the fact that it did all of the test cooks that we did, and I think we did probably 12 or 14 cooks on it. In those 12 or 14 cooks, didn't have a challenge with it. It did exactly what I hoped it would do. And that's not always the case when we get a sample model to be able to put through its paces. So hats off to Yoder and what they've built. I found it worth the reputation that it has.
What's the price tag on that?
I think you can get it for somewhere around $2,699 all the way up to probably $4,000, $3,900, depending on the cart that you get with it. Man, they've got some crazy carts. The standard one, just pretty much standard metal. Then you go to the competition cart. Then you get the competition cart with a huge slide out drawer. Then you can go up to I think they call it the Outlander cart with the golf cart tires. And I mean, I'm sure there's one that hovers in space as well that doesn't touch the ground, but it's incredible carts that they have over there.
You watching any barbecue television?
I am watching some barbecue television, especially those that have just started the last day or two ago. Yeah, so I'm a little bit behind, but I was literally Googling it about a half hour ago going, who got eliminated? Catch me up. And they said no one got eliminated week 1. So I want to go back and watch it. Haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so that information is wrong. If we're talking about Pitmasters on the Food Network.
Okay, well, that information is wrong then.
Yes. So do you want me to spoil it or do you want to watch people get kicked off?
Spoil it, but tell everybody who's watching this that you're going to spoil it.
All right. Spoiler alert, everybody, in case you didn't watch it live last night. Leslie Rourke and her son dismissed. Do you know how? Undercooked chicken. Oh. What? I don't understand this. Every show that I watch that does this, the one Achilles heel, undercooked chicken. Like, where are we that you can't cook chicken up to temperature. I know we're in the hills of Utah. They build cinder block pits. I mean, give me a break. This is the easiest meat to cook. You know you're not supposed to undercook it, and you're getting kicked off for undercooked chicken. This is outrageous.
You know, Greg, it sounds like you're ready to be on one of these shows with a little bit of pressure behind you. And I'm telling you, I'll make a couple calls.
All the other dishes that were executed on that show last night compared to barbecue chicken were way more extensive. And somehow chicken comes up and bites somebody at the heels, and they're sent packing down the hill. And I'm sorry if I ruin it for anybody, but high drama. High drama during that show.
You gave fair warning.
Yes. All right. What are you working on that we should be on the lookout for?
Man, we've got so many things in the hopper right now. But I mean, the thing that we're working on more than anything is this idea of trying to figure out what it is that people really want to see reviews on. I mean, we could review a ton of things. We have emails in our inbox every day for companies asking us, will you please review this? But it's really about trying to understand what the average barbecuer who's in the backyard trying to connect with other people, wants to put some fire on and get some people around fire and connect with each other. What is it that they want to see? So we've been doing a lot of entry-level thermometers. We've been doing things that are like, just what are the best grill gloves? What are the things that everybody's going to go out and buy? Low-dollar item. So we've got a lot more of that coming up that I'm excited about, as well as some other roundups of some of the big things that, let's just be honest, they take us 4 or 5 weeks to shoot one video when we do that. So they're not my favorite to shoot, but they're the favorites of people that watch. So we do them anyway.
How are the Hey Grill Hey gloves? Did you review those?
I did review the Hey Grill Hey gloves. They did get good marks. And I know that in version 1, I followed the fitting size guide on Amazon, and it was not quite accurate. I needed to go one size larger. So I am the proud owner of 2 pairs of those for me, the size that they said fit and the size that did not fit. So I got one size larger, and they're great. So we use those all the time. Just wash your hands like you normally would. But the fact that I could pick up a grill grate with a Hey Grill Hey glove and still have it feel like a nitrile glove with a cotton glove liner, that was huge for us. So I really, really appreciated that. And I know that they've got some other stuff in the works. So there's some new things coming that way, I think.
All right. We're looking forward to that. In the meantime, head over to thebarbecuelab.com and check out what David and his wife are up to. David, appreciate the time and the insight, and we'll see you in 3 months.
Thank you, sir. Have a great one.
You too. David Gafford right there. Pro's Pro, of course. And if you are looking for further review, or you want to see the whole review on the Hasty Bake or the Yoder, go ahead and subscribe to their YouTube channel and check it out there. You can also read all about it on the website, thebarbecuelab.com, and that's spelled correctly, BARBECUE, thebarbecuelab.com. Robert Moss is coming up next. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back, and we thank Dave Gafford for joining us. Last segment, thebarbecuelab.com, his website. My next guest, the contributing barbecue editor for Southern Living Magazine. 2023 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Famer. Can you believe it's been going on 3 years since he crossed the threshold to greatness? It's our pal, Robert Moss. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Greg. How's it going?
I'm fabulous. Appreciate you making time, as always. Before we get going tonight, we have the YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody. In 100% assurity statement fashion, we ask you, Robert, 100% yes or 100% no. You watched more than 10 minutes of the World Cup by choice.
100% yes.
Yes, all right. And you are aligning with 31%. of the YouTube voting public saying, yes, they did watch 10 minutes. We're breaking back out to that 70-30 where we were at towards the beginning of the show before almost getting 50-50. So a lot of us Americans are holding firm that soccer indeed sucks, no matter what the rest of the world has to say. So no shock to anybody that knows this show and that knows us here in the year of 2026 that we have talked extensively ad nauseum, however you want to adjectivize it, about the Michelin Star Guide and what it entails and if it's a sham and if it's not and what you have to do to get involved with it, blah, blah, blah. I recently read an article now 2 or 3 days ago that questioned the legitimacy of the whole thing. And a lot of this is stemming from there is now a partnership with Cisco. There was rumor about Cisco reps delivering the Michelin Star Guide awards to their customers. And is there conflict of interest? And I said, how can we possibly pass this up when there is even more shenanigans potentially being thrown into this mix? Let's suss out what we want to believe as true and what we think just might be fodder. Do we feel any different about Michelin Star now that Cisco's involved in this?
No, but I don't think this is new. Cisco has been involved, I think, for a while. In fact, at least but judging from, I was at the Michelin Guide American South launch ceremony last fall up in Greenville, South Carolina. And, at the presentation, like most sort of corporate it was like a corporate event kind of thing where they had all the sponsors on their logos on the screen behind them. And I think the sales rep for the whatever region, the Southeast region for Cisco came out and said a little something. So I think the fact that those award shows are written by sponsors it's not a huge secret because it's literally splashed on the screen when you're there. So it was not a shock to me, but I think it might be to people who, don't track it as closely. Obviously, you and I were pretty deeply involved in tracking it. But I think that's been the case for a while that, that they underwrite. Now, I'm not sure about the guide itself, but certainly they're underwriting the events. They have lots of corporate sponsors. It's a revenue stream, if you will.
If a rep is delivering an award, is it a logical inference to think that the person that is buying the meat from the Cisco guy, if he gives him more business or gets his friends to come on board with Cisco and leave Mattingly Foods or US Foods or whoever the vendor is going to be, that might give them a better shot if they're eligible to be in that Michelin Star Guide thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a reasonable question to have when you see that, and I think that's the more you get sponsorships, the more, we talked a lot about the tourism boards, sponsoring it, the more just questions you get. Michelin will maintain that their inspectors are completely independent. They don't have, it's sort of like the wall between advertising and content, or advertising and journalism in the newspaper world. They will claim that does not affect the awards, but I think, the more you see of that, the more sponsorships, the more you wonder. And I think rightfully people begin to wonder what's actually going on with this guide.
So I had a question about how do we make a new Michelin Star Guide or something along these lines, but perhaps the better look into this is James Beard really something we could look to as, if you have a restaurant, no matter where it is, there's no buy-in needed by a city or a group in order to bring something in to get evaluated. If you're out there and you are changing the game or you're avant-garde, somehow, some way, James Beard is going to find you. And between the two, that might be more the legitimate culinary award.
I think people have to decide which one's the more legitimate award. I mean, the Beard Awards have gotten a lot of criticism over the years for being sort of very cliquish kind of thing. In particular, at one point, at least, there were a lot of food writers and others, industry insiders who were sort of on the nomination committee. But then it's sort of like the way the Baseball Hall of Fame works. The past chefs would vote on the finals, and that's involved. I can't remember all the details exactly how it worked, but the idea was that you sort of had to get the beef against James Beard was you sort of had to be on the insider. You had to go to the festivals. You had to sort of get out in front of people. You had to network like anything else because it was a bit of a old boy system, inner sanctum kind of deal. They made a lot of changes over recent years to try to get away from that, to try to to respond to the criticism and the perceived gaps in the way they chose things, and then that's it in itself has generated criticisms. So I don't know. I mean, I think ultimately when you start trying to hand out these awards and everything else, you're going to quickly run into human behavior and everything else. So I'm not sure what the answer is on that one. I don't know. I still feel like the James Beard is a little bit more valued within the industry because it's almost like your peers are recognizing you as opposed to this sort of anonymous body of inspectors. But that's just sort of my perception of it.
Before I close this back up and put it away potentially forever, I do want to make it very clear. I'll speak on behalf of Robert Moss, and if I'm incorrect, he can correct me. We're not talking about the restaurants themselves not being great chefs or great eateries or places to visit or anything like that. Merely talking about how the operation is run from the Michelin star side, or as Robert was explaining about how James Beard might be running. But this is certainly no slight against any eatery. I've been to many that have been James Beard nominated or that have had the Michelin star in various forms, or the Bib Gourmand or whatever they call it, and all great restaurants standing on their own. So lest anyone think we're trying to backhand a restaurant. Nothing could be further from the truth. We're not talking about that at all. Speaking of which, this is actually not a very good segue, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I remember not too long ago as we were exploring the history of barbecue, lamb was in the history of barbecue that fell out of the evolution of the history of barbecue. But oh my goodness, am I crazy? Or am I seeing more and more barbecue restaurants on the menu bringing lamb in and potentially as a replacement for brisket?
Yeah, I definitely have seen a lot of lamb recently. I just made a trip down to Texas back in I guess it was back in June, and ate a bunch of lamb down there. It is popping up all over the place. We did talk about this at some point. I've written about it a good bit. Lamb was really one of the staple barbecue meats throughout the South, up until really in the, right after World War II. If you look at old barbecue menus, old, barbecue advertisements from the 30s and the 40s, lamb and pork are usually, together. It's certainly here in the Carolinas, and lamb is often the headline meat back then. And it just totally, we talked about it at some point, just totally tanked after World War II and faded, just lamb in general in terms of like the American population eating it. But particularly as a barbecue meat, it just sort of collapsed. But yeah, you're seeing lots of places now, lots of pitmasters who are starting to put more lamb on the menu. A lot of times you see it as a special. It's not necessarily a menu staple. But increasingly, like I went to Interstellar Barbecue when I was out in Austin not too long ago. They always have lamb shoulder on the menu. I think that's a menu regular. They had this great lamb sausage, a lamb merguez sausage, which is fantastic. There's a place called KG Barbecue in Austin as well. It has at least 3 lamb dishes on the menu, just on the regular menu every day, and then you see specials. And so you see it all over the place now, and I love it. So I don't know if it's just me and you advocating for lamb that it's sort of pushed it up the hill, or we just sort of happened to come along. But it's as far as I'm concerned, it's a turn in the right direction for barbecue.
You think it's something that'll stay on the menu? Like now that it's, I don't want to call it a resurgence, but I mean, we're certainly seeing it in a lot of places that maybe we haven't. Is something that could stick around?
I hope so. I mean, the curious thing about lamb is that for a long time, ever since it sort of fell out of favor in the 50s, it became a premium meat because there wasn't that much of a market for it. There wasn't that much raised, so it was usually much more expensive than beef. If you think about going and buying like a rack of lamb or something like that, that's a pretty per pound is a pretty expensive thing.
Yeah.
But that's largely because there weren't that many ranchers raising sheep and raising lamb. So my hope is that maybe the more we eat it, the more ranchers will raise lamb and the price will actually go down a little bit. It'll be less of a premium meat because now it is pretty much about the equivalent of brisket in terms of price per pound, maybe a little bit less, but it's right up there with beef. So I hope, though, that's my hope, because I love it so much, that it will stay. It will stay on the menus of the people who are trying it. That customers who see it will give it a shot, and step outside the comfort zone a little bit. I think lamb, maybe the first time you eat it, it might be a little bit of a shock. It has a strong flavor, but the more you eat it, I think the more you like it. And I hope others will find that and it becomes a staple.
You ever had horse meat?
I have never had horse meat. No.
Have you?
I don't think I've ever.
Have you been in a place? No, like not out of the country.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I know you can get it in France, but my limited visits to France did not include any places that had a horse on the menu.
I think anywhere in Europe, at least, like at a minimum, everywhere. Italy, I know, has a lot of horse. France, Spain, I believe, is also a big horse. Canada, you can get it.
Maybe I did not come across it. I was just in Spain recently, and I probably would order it just because I'm curious. I don't have necessarily a moral objection to it. Like anything else, I'll try anything at least once and see what it tastes like.
All right. We have, let's say, 10 minutes left, and I have a daughter that's on her way to Atlanta, Georgia. And I know Georgia to have some really good barbecue competitors coming out of there, namely Myron Mixon, of course, but then a bunch of other people from Georgia as well. So no shade on anybody I'm not going to mention by name after Myron, but Myron obviously the most famous. Can you do a little deep dive-ish on the Georgia barbecue scene and if it has its own influence on the rest of barbecue?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. In fact, it's a coincidence. I am literally heading to Georgia tomorrow.
Really?
Yes, heading to Atlanta area tomorrow to eat barbecue. I'm going to hit up some. I'm working on, I think I told you, the best new barbecue joints list for Southern Living. So I've got a list of some new places I want to visit, and I'm going to go visit some old favorites while I'm down there and sort of check in on them and see how they're doing. So I'm literally going to immerse myself in Georgia barbecue starting tomorrow. Wow. But Georgia it's one of those, I would say almost at this point, forgotten barbecue traditions. In fact, I think at some point I had various sort of online debates with people about, is there such a thing as Georgia barbecue? And my position is, of course there is such a thing as Georgia barbecue. It very much has its own tradition. In fact, it goes way back. In fact, in the late 19th century, Georgia was probably the premier barbecue state in all the country. Huh? You see lots of references to old-fashioned Georgia barbecues. There are lots of food writers and travel writers coming down from the north and visiting all these Georgia barbecue joints and everything else. So it has a very long and rich barbecue tradition. And but it's something that I'm not exactly sure why has sort of fallen off everybody's radar screen. It's not. If you ask people what are the 4 great barbecue regions, Georgia is almost never on the list, and people might be hard pressed to say what the Georgia style is. But there is an old Georgia style. We can talk about what that is, and then there's sort of what's happening there today. But Georgia is sort of butts up against the Carolinas. It picks up some elements, similarities to the Carolinas, and in terms of the style. But I think a Georgia barbecue is primarily pork. Pork shoulder or hams, chopped pork. And then ribs are quite common in Georgia. The sauce is a little bit, there's not a uniform sauce, but it tends to be a red sauce, tends to be sort of a thin, tomato vinegar type sauce, depends on where you go. In different parts of Georgia, there are pockets of mustard-based sauce, and that includes up near the Carolina border, but all the way actually way down around Columbus. When you get down right on the Alabama-Georgia border, there is a whole bunch of places down there that have mustard-based sauce, including a place called Chicken Comer, which is an interesting name. And despite the name Chicken Comer, I think pork is their specialty. Chicken Comer was the guy's nickname. But it has this excellent mustard-based barbecue sauce that they have the different, 3 different levels of spicy. And if you get the spicy one, it will clear your sinuses out really well. So that's a little pockets of that everywhere. They're in throughout Georgia. But by and large, it's a red sauce kind of tradition, a lot of pork. You can get other things as well, but that maybe some chicken, but barbecue primarily is pork in that area. And then Brunswick stew is sort of the classic Georgia barbecue side. Georgia did not invent Brunswick stew. I've written about that. It's actually a Virginia thing, but it sort of took root in Georgia in the early 20th century. And so if you think of like the iconic Georgia barbecue meal, it's probably a chopped pork sandwich with a little cup of Brunswick stew on the side and maybe potato salad, maybe some pickles or something like that. But that's really Georgia barbecue. And it's been that way up until the 21st century when it, like everything else, the regional styles started varying. Interesting thing about Georgia is that hasn't disappeared. Georgia probably has more off the beaten path old school barbecue joints than any place I know. You're just driving down the road and you see one. You pull in and there it is. It's like an old school place. And I'm going to try to hit up a couple more. I have a long list of places I haven't had time to get to all of them yet. So there's lots of good old fashioned Georgia barbecue. Not inside Atlanta necessarily. You got to get out into the rest of Georgia, but there's a lot of it down there.
Was there a place, I know there was some like issues with ownership, but I think it was a two-named place. One of the names was Hull.
Yeah, Owens and Hull.
Yeah, but that's not anymore, right?
Well, no, they split, and Owens and Hull was on my best new barbecue joint list. I think the last time I did it, and it is now. There are now two restaurants. There is now Owens and Company, which is in the same location where Owens and Hull was. And then the Hull, Owens and Hull is split off and with some other partners and has a thing called Misfits Barbecue. And it's Misfits with 3 S's at the end, I think. Just to further not fit in. And I think they're popping up right now, I think they may be Saturday only at a brewery, I think in West Atlanta. So they sort of split off and are doing their different ways. But so Owens and Company is still going on in the old brick and mortar that they were in. And then Misfits is out carving out something new. I've not been to it yet, but hopefully I'll be able to sneak my way in on a Saturday.
I asked David on the way out, I'll ask you the same. Are you watching any new barbecue television that's currently out there?
I am not currently. I've been meaning to watch Pitmasters. I guess I can skip this week's episode now and just wait for next week's. But no, not currently. If I do pick one up, it'll be Pitmasters. There's a lot of folks I know are on it. A lot of So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'll probably binge it at some point.
Check Robert out at robertfmoss.com or socially as well. And you can see him here on the second Tuesday, 35 past the first hour segment. Robert, always appreciate the time, and we'll see you in August.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Greg.
You got it. Always learning something new when Robert stops by the show, and now you have your dose of Georgia barbecue history in less than 10 minutes. Love it. I'll make sure that I clip that out, send it to Bobby. She'll be heading down to Atlanta here over the next couple weeks. Emergency room nurse there at Grady Memorial, wherever that is, in the city somewhere. This show is brought to you by our pals over at Fireboard. Innovators behind Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, the Fireboard Spark, and the Fireboard Beacon. Of course, the wireless Fireboard Pulse. You can experience total control over all devices from anywhere in the world with the Fireboard app. Discover more by visiting fireboard.com, or you can call them with questions, 816-945-2232. That's 816-945-2232. We're back to wrap the first hour after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back, and we thank Robert Moss for joining us last segment. Little Michelin Star Guide further talk, a little lamb talk. He has not eaten horse yet. Neither have I. And a deep dive-ish into Georgia-style barbecue, kind of like Florida. Had an old-timey version. Now there's a new-timey version. Fabulous. So if you missed it, you're going to be able to get it tomorrow in podcast, but I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Double Aught Barbecue if you are down in Atlanta or Georgia, saying Fox Brothers, Cracklin' Bees, Southern Soul Barbecue, Behind the Food TV. John Lewis has a new place in Atlanta. Stop there and say hi for me. It got mixed reviews. Like, not great. Behind the Food TV. When Bobby told me Lewis Barbecue, I'm like, the place that's in Charleston? Like, oh, I think it's also in Atlanta. And I searched. Indeed, new place in Atlanta. Reviews, not great. I don't always base on reviews, but typically the pitmaster, former pitmaster of the barbecue, should be raking in the praise. But we'll see. We're going to go down first part of Atlanta. By the way, well, I'll talk about that here in a minute. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around and we'll be right back.